Fox 1438 Franklin and Arctic Streets reported building fire at 266 Franklin Street. Response, engine 12, engine 1, engine 6, engine 13, ladder 5, ladder 1, north end chief in the rescue. That's engine 12, engine 1, engine 6, engine 13, ladder 5, ladder 1, north end chief in the rescue. Time of the box, 1813 hours.
We'd like to ask you now to bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. I would like to ask to the podium Mayor Joe Petty.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of my colleagues in government, I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight. It was 20 years ago tonight, the heart of our city and the hearts of so many of you here were broken. We are here to remember not just the lives that were lost that night, but those that were forever changed. Every one of us remembers where we were and what we were doing that night when we first heard of the fire. It is hard to believe that was 20 years ago tonight and a generation ago. Yet we still remember the sacrifices and bravery of Lieutenant Thomas Spencer, Lieutenant James Lyons, firefighters Paul Brotherton, Timothy Jackson, Jeremiah Lucy, and Joseph McGuire. Lives lost, lives shattered, lives changed forever that cold December night. The families of those brave 6 men who were thrust in the public eye for the worst reason imaginable. I am proud that many of their children today serve the people of Worcester as their fathers did. I remember when the calls started coming in while they fired at Franklin and Arctic Streets, how those calls became a flood, and with that torrent came confusion. What had happened, how, who. It was so much to take in. The reality of the lives lost that night was worse than anything I could have imagined. Remember the families of the firefighters gathered for days, huddled together against the cold December chill on the 290 overpass, waiting for news, hoping for the best, praying for a miracle. And in the aftermath, I remember the silent crowds of our city, lining Grove Street to Major Taylor Boulevard to DCU Center, with Chief Dennis Budd leading the worcester-fire-department to the memorial service. There was no noise, only the footsteps of thousands of firefighters, sounds of bagpipes and drums, beating out a mournful cadence as the roll upon roll of firefighters from across the world joined in our sorrow. Hundreds of pipers and drummers from all over the country playing Amazing Grace and Minstrel Boy, while President Clinton and Vice President Gore stood shoulder to shoulder with Mayor Mariano, City Manager Thomas Suva, Fire Chief Dennis Budd, Local 1009 President Frank Raffa, the whole of America sharing in our city's grief. That grief was not abated. We know that it lives on in the people here tonight. Our community was here in 1999. We were here in 2011 when firefighter John Davies passed, and last December for firefighter Christopher Roy, and then less than a month ago for Lieutenant Jason Menard. The sense of loss, of unfairness, of frustration, of sadness that we feel can never be explained. We stand together again tonight to remember as we did that day, and as we have for the last 20 years, and as we will for the next 20 years. We are Worcester, we are the heart of the Commonwealth, and our hearts aches this evening. Thank you for being with us tonight, and may God bless the men and women of the Worcester Fire Department in the city of Worcester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to welcome to the podium Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito.
Good evening. It's an honor to be here with everyone tonight, and I wish to thank all of you for gathering here in the city of Worcester, the heart of our Commonwealth. I'd like to thank Chief LaVoy, Mayor Petty, Manager Augustus, our clergy, I'd like to also personally thank Denis-Leary and his foundation for all the love and support you have shown to this community. Gathering tonight so close on the heels of the tragedy that took Lieutenant Menard's life, and less than a year ago, Christopher Roy, and before that, John Davies. We come to honor and show our respect and love and appreciation for our Worcester Six. Their faces, their names, their being have left an indelible mark on this community. And their names ought to be spoken and repeated as often as we can. Spencer, Jackson, Lyons, Lucy, Brotherton, and McGurk. Our Worcester Six. All of them taken from us in the prime of their lives, enjoying being fathers and husbands and part of the brotherhood and doing what they loved and what they were so good at. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to stop at the beautiful tribute in Union Station, displaying their names and the 6 pillars that hold up Union Station. I want to thank Don Courtney and his team. What struck me was the organization of the tribute, but also the fact that these items were left here 20 years ago, and that people like Don and others collected these items, stored them, and remembered them. And to share them with the community today is a really special gift. The tribute's beautiful because it does display the outpouring of support near and far from people all over this country. It's powerful because it records our history. A night that we wish was very different, but it is clearly part of our history. And it's meaningful because it does tell our story. And when I was telling the governor about this tribute and the display at Union Station, I said to him, as I walked through the exhibits, that it just felt like yesterday that the event of 20 years ago was. I said it felt so real, and it felt like so close to where we are today. We all remember where we were that night. We remember the cold. We remember the smell of the smoke. We remember the chaos. We remember it like it was yesterday. And the Gov said to me, for your community, for this community, it will always feel like yesterday. It will always feel like yesterday. And I thought about that for a moment. And it feels like yesterday because of who we are, because we know it's important to remember it like it was yesterday. And as we come here tonight, I know that we all feel a sense of responsibility to never forget our Worcester Six, to never forget them because we owe it to them and to their families and to their brothers and sisters in the fire service here in this Commonwealth and across this country. It's our responsibility to examine what happens when there's a tragedy like that, and how we can learn and make the conditions for the fire service better. And it's our responsibility to always, always be grateful. Be grateful to the Worcester Six, to their sons who continue to serve and protect this city, and to the many women and men who choose this line of work because it's something they love to do. And I was thinking about this gathering tonight and saying to myself, so what is a silver lining, if you can even think about a silver lining that comes with such a tragedy? And the only thing I could think about is this amazing community spirit, this amazing ability for this community to stick together, to stand together, and to show the respect and love to the Worcester Six and to their families and to the others that follow after them. And I would say that silver lining in the spirit, in the sense of community that Worcester has, is something very special. So let's always remember what our responsibility is. Be grateful for their service and never, ever, ever take any of this for granted. God bless your families. God bless the fire service. God bless this great city in this Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I'd like to call to the podium at this time the City Manager, Ed Augustus.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here tonight, especially the families of these fallen heroes, as well as our current firefighters, retirees, and all the members of the extended Worcester Fire Department family. As we mark the 20th anniversary of the Worcester-Cold-Storage fire on this very site, December 3rd, 1999, it's hard to put into words what losing the Worcester Six meant to our city at the time, and the profound impact this loss has continued to have ever since. Many of us, including myself, will never forget that horrible night. To lose one firefighter is a tragedy. To lose 6 firefighters on one night is almost unthinkable. We will never forget the sacrifices these 6 firefighters made in the line of duty in an effort to save others. It truly takes a special kind of person to be a Worcester firefighter. Someone who runs into a burning building or a house on fire with people still inside. It's people like Lieutenants Thomas Spencer and Jay Lyons, and firefighters Paul Brotherton, Timothy Jackson, Jeremiah Lucy, and Joseph McGurk. A tradition of selfless service that has continued with firefighters John Davies, Christopher Roy, and Lieutenant Jason Menard. In his article, The Perfect Fire, published in Esquire magazine in July 2000, writer Sean Flynn tells a highly detailed story of the cold storage fire and those Worcester firefighters who experienced it firsthand. At one point in the story, Flynn writes, quote, "Firefighting isn't so much a job as an identity." That line couldn't be more true than right here in Worcester, the heart of the Commonwealth. In Worcester, being a firefighter is a proud identity, a noble identity, an identity that has come to mean so much to this city and this community. Throughout the last 2 decades, as our firefighters have sacrificed their lives for our safety. Take the words of Lieutenant Jay Lyons from an essay he wrote as part of an application to Clark University in 1983. He recounted an event that he had witnessed in his own neighborhood when the fire department rescued an elderly resident a few streets over. He wrote, "Why did these men risk their lives for someone they didn't even know? The answer itself is very simple. This is their life, the life of saving others. The life of saving others, that's what our firefighters are called to do, save others, regardless of who they are or where they might live. They answer the call because they have to. Somebody has to, and we're so grateful. Firefighters like these brave Worcester Six have always responded so quickly and without hesitation. When President Clinton spoke at the memorial in 1999, he quoted from the writings of Benjamin Franklin, entitled "Brave Men at Fires." Franklin said, "Neither cold nor darkness will deter good people from hastening to that dreadful place to quench the flame. They do it not for the sake of reward or fame. They have a reward in themselves, and they have love for one another." Although this tragic event was a crushing blow to our city, we have bounced back and become stronger. Not only do we have what I believe is the best fire department in the country, we have a city and a community that has literally wrapped its arms around the Worcester Fire Department throughout these last 20 years. You can see the love here tonight. You can see it over at the memorial exhibit at Union Station, which displays the outpouring of support so many of you have given to the Worcester Six and their families. This is truly a city and a community that cares very deeply about its firefighters and what they do to protect us day in and day out. Thank you to all of you for being here tonight, for your continued support of the Worcester Fire Department throughout some especially challenging times over these last 20 years. And thank you to our entire city and region and nation for continuing to honor the legacy of the Worcester Six. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to ask to the microphone now, Mr. Denis-Leary.
Thank you. It's truly an honor to be included in this service tonight, and especially to stand here in front of this firehouse, which I believe is an unbelievable tribute to the Worcester Six. The Leary Firefighters Foundation is proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with the fire department and the courageous members of the Worcester Fire Department. Our mission to help firefighters across America began here in the memory of the incredible Worcester Six 20 years ago. We have never forgotten these brave men and the ultimate sacrifice they made 20 years ago tonight. We honor their devotion to duty and the 7 sons who have followed in their father's footsteps to serve this community as Worcester firefighters. That is the greatest tribute of all.
Thank you, Mr. Leary. I'd like to welcome to the podium now Worcester Fire Chief Engineer Michael Lavoie.
Good evening. I'd just like to make one correction, and I probably should have told the manager and the mayor this earlier when we found out. We checked the records and we found out that Tim Jackson was actually posthumously promoted to lieutenant in 2001. So, thank you. So I like the Lieutenant Governor, I was over at the tribute over at Union Station for the Worcester Six. And I want to thank District Chief Gary Fleischer and Lieutenant Don Courtney for all the work they did. I also want to thank all the retirees and the firefighters that helped out over there. It was truly amazing and very emotional. When I was over there, there was one piece that struck me. It was a handwritten poster. I'm not sure of the exact words, and I apologize to the author, but it said, "Some of the most important things in life are invisible." Helen Keller once said, "The best and most beautiful things in the world, they must be felt with the heart." Passion, dedication, loving, caring, friendship, brotherhood. These are just some of the unseen important traits of firefighters, and 20 years ago, a fire put all these things to the test. The Worcester Cold-Storage fire, the building from hell, was by far the worst tragedy we've ever seen. 2 homeless people reported in the building. Search and rescue was initiated. 2 of our members became lost and running out of air. Many of our firefighters then entered the building in a valiant effort to locate their brothers, some pushing it to the limit within seconds of their own demise. All of these unseens, passion, dedication, loving, caring, friendship, and brotherhood were on full display that night by all the firefighters, both inside the warehouse and those preparing to go in. In the end, we lost 6 brothers: Jay, Jerry, Joe, Tim, Tom, and Paul. Over these past months and years, you've heard us talk about the things we've learned over the last 20 years. As far as technology, strategy, tactics, and all that. But one of the lessons learned in the changes made over the last 20 years, both within the fire department, well, these were things that were learned within the Worcester Fire Department and internationally around the fire service. But there is one lesson that we learned from this fire, from the loss of our 6 brothers, that is extremely important. That is resiliency. Resiliency can't be seen. It can't be touched. 20 years ago, today, most of us probably couldn't define resiliency. Mentally, we were totally unprepared for a tragedy of this magnitude and lacked the knowledge of what these types of incidents do to humans. Jay, Jerry, Joe, Tim, Tom, and Paul have since been guiding us on a path of knowledge to the place we are today, much better equipped to handle the fallout of tragedy. Even though we can't see or touch our 6 brothers, we feel them in our hearts, in our minds, as they continue to guide us through some of the most difficult times that one department and city can bear. I'd like to thank all the firefighters, both here tonight and around the world. I'd like to also thank all the firefighters' families. I'd like to thank the communities of Worcester and the surrounding communities. I'd like to thank our union brothers. I'd like to thank our elected and appointed officials, federal, state, and local. Thank you all for your support over these last 20 years. And I know you will all be there to support us as we move forward. But I would especially like to thank the men and the women of the Worcester Fire Department who continue to stand tall through tragedy. Although with heavy hearts, they continue to do their job day in and day out, serving the people of the Worcester community with extreme dedication and professionalism. Thank you, Worcester firefighters. So in closing, Jay, Jerry, Joe, Tim, Tom, Paul, we love you, we miss you, and we will never forget you. Thank you.
Detail active.
I'd like to invite to the podium Lieutenant Mike Lapani, President, Local 1009, for the reading of the traditional bell ceremony.
The men and women of today's fire service are confronted with a more dangerous work environment than ever before. We are forced to continually change our strategies and tactics to accomplish our tasks. Our methods may change, but our goals remain the same as they were in the past. To save lives and to protect property, sometimes at a terrible cost. This is what we do. This is our chosen profession. This is the tradition of the firefighter. In the fire service of today, is ever changing, but is steeped in traditions 200 years old. One such tradition is that of the bell. In the past, as firefighters began their tour of duty, it was the bell that signaled the beginning of that day's shift. Throughout the day and night, each alarm was sounded by a bell, which summons these brave souls to fight fires and to place their lives in jeopardy for the good of their fellow citizen. And when the fire was out and the alarm had come to an end, it was the bell that signaled to all the completion of that call. When a firefighter died in the line of duty, paying the supreme sacrifice, it was the mournful toll of the bell that solemnly announced a comrade's passing. We utilize these traditions as symbols which reflect honor and respect on those who have given so much and who have served so well. To symbolize the devotion that these brave souls had for their duty, a special signal of 5 rings 3 times represents the end of our comrades' duties and that they will be returning to quarters. And so, 20 years later, the bell again tolls to those who have selflessly given their lives for the good of their fellow man. Their tasks completed, their duties well done. To our comrades, their last alarm, they are going home.
Now read the roll. Lieutenant Thomas Spencer. Lieutenant James J. Lyons. Lieutenant Timothy Jackson. Firefighter Paul Brotherton. Firefighter Jeremiah Lucy. Firefighter Joseph McGuirk. I would now like to warn you that there's going to be a 21 gun salute.